You found yourself 60 miles from anywhere. In the upcoming episodes, I'm going to talk about some of the events in my life that brought me to where I am today, but also some of the places I've been and the experiences I've had on my own. In upcoming episodes, I'm also going to talk about the writing process and the challenges with publishing in the 2020s. If you'd like to support my podcast, check out my blog at 60milesfromanywhere.com and check out the Buy Me a Coffee link. I'm also an affiliate with Origin USA, so if you need quality boots, jeans, or martial arts equipment, go check them out using my link. You'll also get 10% off your purchase with promotion code Harris10. So let's begin. Let's talk about what I'm doing here. I'm not an influencer. I'm a middle-aged man past my prime by many accounts. I'm not an influencer. I'm a middle-aged man. I spent most of my adult life taking care of other people, putting my dreams on hold to make sure my family had a roof over their head and enough to eat. I worked at the same place for 20 years, and just before the pandemic, I was a part of a big layoff. They laid off 125 people in one fell swoop. It was that institution's attempt to restructure and save themselves. Now that I'm in my late 40s, I still want to follow my dreams. Our culture focuses so much on what we are supposed to have done while we were young. Vitality, image, and sex are all commodities. Entire industries celebrate the cult of youth, so it's no wonder when you hit a certain age, you feel like those kind of dreams just aren't for you anymore. What the hell am I doing? I live alone in a house that has been in my family for 5 generations. I moved back to my hometown after the layoff because I had the opportunity to pursue a side gig I'd been doing for years. Only now it was going to have to be full-time. I no longer had the golden handcuffs of my job and higher education. Nobody was hiring during what would become years of lockdowns anyway. I decided to clear out what was left of my pension, take a couple of big risks, and start a new life up in the mountains, back home where I grew up. I am a writer. For the last 2 years, I've been writing full-time. Anyone who has attempted this knows it's a strange path to walk, especially if you've been punching a time clock for the last 20 years. Imposter syndrome is very real in this life. Working for yourself, your discipline comes from within. Unlike passive-aggressive comments from supervisors and semi-annual ass-chewings about performance concerns, you only have yourself to blame for being motivated enough to work. Most supervisors base the metric of your success on how shitty they can make you feel. Like the old saying goes, people don't quit jobs, they quit bad management. So when you work for yourself, you are the management. You have to remind yourself of who you are every day. There's not just a regular paycheck that has your job title printed there under your name. If there's work to be found, you do the work. If there isn't, you do something else that could become work later. It's the tightrope walking of being a creative. For the last 2 years, I've been splitting my time between writing a book and writing content for online companies. It isn't glamorous. I wish the pay was better. A lot of people might think it would be smarter to just quit and go back to sitting behind a desk full-time. What kind of life was that? Most days were spent watching the clock measure out every moment of my life I would never get back. Working for somebody who didn't care what happened to me after 20 years of loyalty, experience, and putting up with their bullshit. Living paycheck to paycheck as I watched deans and professors fly off to their conferences, while the rest of us lived by the mantra, at least we have our jobs. Until we didn't. When the world was advised to shelter in place, I decided to do something else with my life. Rather than wait around for more scraps that got chucked over to me, I decided to move and follow opportunity instead of just doing more of the same crap. My job was killing me faster than COVID could. I can't be the only one who wants to follow a dream, can I? Sometimes it feels like we were told as kids to dream big, go to college, get the job we want, the family we want to provide for, and somehow very few of us ever wind up doing anything like that. We work in cubicle mazes, as worker drones for companies that will replace us within a week of our deaths. We wind up in nasty divorces, never getting to see our kids. Maybe we got to take a couple of vacations to Las Vegas or Disney or Cancun. We are told to just hold on and keep our heads down. If we survive to retirement, we might be able to move someplace warm, maybe buy a boat. Of course, by then we are too old and too beat to hell to enjoy any of it, taking statins by the handful and denying ourselves the pleasures that used to make us happy. Caffeine, sugar, red meat. We're too tired for sex and too worn out for adventures. What happened to the dream? Why does it feel like it's always for somebody else? This life I have chosen isn't always exciting, but it can be interesting. Most of the time, I'm trying to make enough money to not starve. But a bad day of writing always beats any day in that office. I started this series because I want to bring you along the path I've chosen. Some of it will be about the challenges of writing full-time, the disappointments, the frustrations. I'm going to talk about the places it's taken me as I try to break into travel writing. I'm also in the process of renovating this house. I'm not a carpenter, but I'm learning as I go. You wouldn't know it by looking at my unmade bed or stacks of dishes in the sink, but I am a perfectionist. The disarray on my desk and sticky notes on my monitor might try to convince you otherwise. Don't let the chaotic loops and squiggles of my handwriting try to fool you either. I've been wanting to start this podcast for a while, and I have had a couple of attempts, but they didn't go anywhere. Like a lot of things I start in life, I wonder why they don't catch on. So many bad ideas out there spread like wildfire, but for whatever reason, mine don't, the good or the bad ideas. It's frustrating. It doesn't play nicely with my imposter syndrome either. What a weird profession I've gotten into, where your worth is so determined by the judgment of others. I send out stories and I wait for somebody to decide if they are good enough to publish. Most of the time, I don't hear anything back. So with this project, I've been holding off until I felt like it was as ready as it could be. I know it's not going to be perfect or as polished as the others. It's nowhere near what I envisioned it to be. And those doubts keep running through my head. The ones that say I'm too old and uninteresting to start something like this. Just one face in a sea of thousands, self-aggrandizing again, over nothing remarkable. Think of all the meanest things anybody could ever say to you. You've already told yourself every one of them by breakfast. Sometimes that's how I start off every day. It's not going to be perfect. Don't overcomplicate things. Just begin. Writing really isn't all that exciting. Some nights I've worked all alone at 2 a.m, my dog's snoring in the chair next to me, and I'm fixated on an idea that won't let me rest until I get it down. Sometimes the ideas come in rapid fire and I get lost in it, like being swept away in a river current. Or there are those nights where the blank pages just stare back at me. On those nights, not enough coffee in the world could draw them out. I wanted this first episode to be perfect, but it isn't. With life, we only ever get a first draft. Can you imagine the trouble we would get into if we had do-overs? I don't write because it's easy. Every day you keep working at it. You add a few more pages. You edit. You revise. You rewrite. When you think something is good enough, you send it out. Most of the time you'll hear no if you hear anything back at all. That goes for anything from writing content for companies, poetry, fiction, or even just airing out my thoughts in a blog post. With creation, there is vulnerability. Something you have created is something you might just love, but it might make somebody else cringe. If you do sell, the rush is short-lived. The money spends just as quickly as it would if you were working in a sawmill. And the worst thing is that article that got you a byline in a glossy magazine just might remind you of how awful your earlier attempts were. Or it might set the bar so high that you may freak out the next time you try to sit down and write something. The more you keep going, the better you get, and the higher you set the bar for what you consider perfect. When you do creative work, whether it's writing, playing music, painting, dance, any of it, creation is only a part of it. The rest is marketing, editing, fortune-telling, bullshit, and luck. Some days it's like pulling teeth just to start. If you were lucky enough, once you get going, it's even harder to stop. Every day is a choice. Do I keep doing this? If so, for how much longer? What else are you going to do when you aren't guaranteed success, much less fame and fortune? You might as well just start and see where it takes you.